Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. We are getting to the crux of the topic. Let me introduce Vivek again, who is the VP of Products at Indusface. He has 15 plus years of experience in product management. Majority of it is in security. Prior to Indusface, where we focus on website and API security, he also worked in a company called Dhruva, where he focused on endpoint security. That said, over to you, Vivek.
Thanks, Mani. Thanks for a wonderful introduction. Let me just share my screen so that can you make me the host? Yeah, okay. I'm just sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks, Mani, again for a wonderful introduction. Thanks, everyone, for joining in to this afternoon. As Mani said, this is a launch webinar for our product AcuRisQ. But before talking about what the new offering does, I want to give you a quick landscape view around what is a AppSec landscape, what is the problem that the security practitioners in the industry are facing. What do we mean by vulnerability fatigue? And then we'll go about talking about how we are solving it through our new offering, AcuRisQ. With that, let me get started. So let me start by giving you a quick overview of the enterprise landscape, right? What we see is more and more in enterprises, there is a proliferation of applications and APIs. On an average, as we talk to customers and everything, and also by researchers, what we see is an enterprise organization kind of handles anywhere between 250 to 350 applications, and they have more than 5,000 to 10,000 API services, which they either are exposing or are they consuming, right? So that's a lot of assets, and there's a lot of attack surface area, right? So the attack surface area is expanding. And what that is resulting is that there are more and more vulnerabilities that are getting exposed, right? In our application state of application security report that we publish every quarter, one of the things that we found was in 1,400 sample assets, right, for which we created a report, there were about 29,000 critical or high vulnerabilities that were open, right? And this is not only for the applications that we are protecting, right? Even in the application, even in industry trends, when surveys were done, what it was seen was in a Fortune 500 companies, on an average, there are about 450 critical vulnerabilities. Just critical, right? Not high or medium. I'm just talking about critical vulnerabilities. So look at the volume of these vulnerabilities. There is a huge volume of vulnerabilities. There are a lot of assets. There's a huge large attack surface area and a lot of opportunities for hackers to exploit. So what is this all resulting to? All this is resulting to an increase in burden on the security teams. So why is it happening, right? As I said, applications are, there's a proliferation of applications, right? There is a lot of applications in an organization. And developers are building these applications using third-party tools. They are not following the proper security standards. But on the other hand, the compliance and the regulatory bodies are becoming more stringent. Every day we are seeing a lot of new policies that is coming out. There are new guidelines that is coming out by various organizations, putting a lot of burden on the security teams. And there's a constant trend of timelines, audit timelines, fines, and other things. All this is resulting to a huge burden on the security teams where they have to triage hundreds and thousands of vulnerabilities across hundreds of applications. And this is becoming a nightmare for them. What we are seeing, and this is what we see as the problem of vulnerability fatigue, is that the security practitioners are forced to prioritize vulnerabilities, and they are kind of left in the dark without the right tools to prioritize. It is nearly impossible to fix all the vulnerabilities that are there in the application, because there are various business needs which forces organizations to move fast, and then just stopping to fix all the vulnerabilities does not make sense. But at the same time, security practitioners are asked to tell the developers which are the vulnerabilities which are important to fix. But that eventually means it is trying to find a needle in the haystack, where uh, there are hundreds of vulnerabilities and there are no right mechanisms to identify which is the vulnerability that is of important, that needs to be fixed. Otherwise, the organizations would be compromised. And this is a problem statement which we are trying to solve. So before we go further, a quick survey question. So how do you prioritize what vulnerabilities fix? So in your organization, you might be facing the same kind of problems. So which of these answers meet your bucket, which is you use a CVS score to prioritize, or you fix what you think is important, or you outsource this task, or you do conduct secular audits, assessments, and based on the recommendation, you decide what to fix. The survey will be open for next 10 seconds. Okay, we will close this survey. Can you publish the results, please? Okay. 70% of the people have said they rely on the CVS score, which is very interesting. And this is kind of where we are also going towards, right? We know that every organization depends on the CVS score, and CVS score does a good job, but it's a necessary evil. But there are shortcomings of it, which is what we'll talk in the subsequent slides. But before I go into it, I'll also talk about the after effects. So without talking about the after effects, there's no completion of the landscape story, right? So there are vulnerabilities. The vulnerabilities are exposed no matter how big or small an organization. They have applications that are exposed over the internet, which can be exploited. Even very recently, ChatGPT, which is known for its LLM model and which is being touted as the holy grail for security, even that organization behind it, in their app, there was a vulnerability which led to exposure of users' personal info, right? And even the payment details. Similarly, very recently, Move It application, which is an file transfer application, had a vulnerability which resulted in loss of data for across various organizations, including government organization, public and private, right? And this resulted in huge issues, resulting into class act suits against the owner of Move It, as well as IPM, which was hosting these servers, right? So there is huge repercussions of not fixing the vulnerabilities that matter, and that is where we are going towards, right? So as I said so far, what we really believe is there are a lot of vulnerabilities and there are no right tools to prioritize these vulnerabilities. And why do I say that is because exactly what you guys mentioned, right? 70% of you guys rely on CVS scores. It is not only you, the industry relies on CVS score for prioritizing the vulnerabilities. But CVS score has its own shortcomings. Let me explain what it is, right? Before talking about the shortcomings, let me give you a quick introduction of what the CVSS score, right? So CVSS score has been around from, I think, from 2005 or so. It was built to standardize the severities of the vulnerabilities, because again, there were a lot of applications, there were many vulnerabilities. People were grappling to figure out which is the vulnerability which is more important, and to solve this problem, the CVSS score were introduced. when CVSS core were introduced, first it had a CVSS base core, and the CVSS base core looked at three major aspects. One is called exploitability, other is scope, and the third is impact. So exploitability, as the name suggests, how easy is this thing exploitable, where is the vulnerability located, and those things, right? And then scope is around when the vulnerability is exploited, what is the scope until which this can be exploited, right? So will an vulnerability in an application lead to exposure of the underlying OS, and then from there can the attack can be proliferated further. So those are the things that will be considered in the scope. And then the final thing is the impact, which is the whether confidentiality will be breached, integrity will be breached, availability will be breached. So if you look at it, it was built with the right intent, right? But then what it was realized is this was just concentrating on the impact without looking at the context of the vulnerabilities. And to solve for it, further two more major segments were introduced, which were called temporal scores and environmental scores. But because of the nature of how these scores were calculated, nobody really uses the temporal or environmental scores. It's only used in a very complex organization when the maturity level is very high. So otherwise, generally the CVSS score relies on the base score. And more, when you are relying on a CVSS score coming from a dash scanner and those things, the CVS score is borrowed from the CVE IDs, right? So when a CVE is published for a vulnerability, it comes with a CVSS score that is determined by the publisher or who's identifying the vulnerabilities. But that is, if you look at it, it's a very static in nature. And that is the biggest problem with CVSS score. CVSS score focuses on a static impact, right? It is coming out from the lens of what will be the impact if the vulnerability is exploited. But it never looks into the context of the vulnerabilities, right? Where the vulnerability is found, what is the nature of the vulnerability, what kind of application is it found in, will the exploit of this vulnerability cause a business impact to me? That contexts are generally not looked into, which eventually results in most of the vulnerabilities being classified as critical, high, or medium. And generally, all the security practitioners are being told to fix all your critical, high, medium vulnerabilities, which eventually means they have to look at all the thousands of vulnerabilities. And when somebody, if your developer comes and asks you, hey, which to fix, you really do not know, because you can't say, hey, just fix the critical vulnerabilities, because medium could also be exploited, which could lead to a business impact, right? So that is the problem. That is a major problem which is leading to a vulnerability fatigue. And that is what we are trying to solve. And that is how, and what we think is, to solve this problem, you have to move your lens and start looking at a risk-based metric, which does not just look at the static impact, but it also looks at your business goals. It understands how your business application is, how your applications are stacked up, which application is important, and prioritize the vulnerabilities according to it, right? Not just look at the vulnerability, but look at the context of the vulnerability. That is the more important part. And that is what we try to achieve through the risk-based metric. And it is on these lines that we are introducing the AcuRisQ. Before I talk a bit more about AcuRisQ, I just want another survey question. Whatever I said around vulnerability fatigue and a problem around CVSS code, is that a concern for you, or is that not something that you see as a problem? The survey is open now. Okay, we'll close the survey in another 5 seconds. Okay, you can close the survey and publish the results. Okay, that's wonderful. Nearly 100% of you have said that this is vulnerability fatigue is a concern to you. Then what I'm going to say in the next slides would probably resonate with you. right? So to solve this problem of vulnerability fatigue is why we have introduced our new offering, which is AcuRisQ. AcuRisQ is a risk quantification offering which would try to prioritize your vulnerabilities by just not looking at the impact, but also looking at the context. So what do we mean by that, right? So we look at various things when we find a vulnerability, and to be noted, this would everything would be done automated, and there is no manual work that is required from your end to come up with this AcuRisQ. So we look at various factors, starting from discoverability. When we say discoverability, what we mean by that is how easy is the vulnerability to vulnerability is to find, right? Is it found on your home page? Is it found on the second layer from the home page? Is it found 20 pages inside, right? That is also important, right? That is giving you the context of where the vulnerability is found, and depending on that, you can decide. We can decide which needs to be prioritized. Severity comes from the CVSS score. Yes, we also consider the CVSS score, but that is one factor, but not the entire factor. We look at the impact from the lens of what will be the impact to the organization, whether the exploit of this vulnerability will cause any damage to the reputation of the organization, will it cause any issues. Exploitability is how easy is this vulnerability to exploit. Does it require a privilege to exploit? Is it does it have to go through a complex steps before it can be exploited, or it can be easily exploited? Is the attack vectors for this have been publicly available? So how is that, right? So based on that, again, that is a factor that is considered when you do the AcuRisQ score. Last but not least is the business dependency. And this is a very important factor for us. We need to understand the context of the application where the vulnerability is found. Is it a UAT application? Is it a QA application? Is there an application which is the fundamental application to which all the other applications are talking? Right? That's more important. That is the context. If there is an application in your environment that is being called by 10 other applications, then if the vulnerability is found in this application, which is called by the 10 applications, then any vulnerability here should be fixed first before the other applications. It provides, if you look at it from that perspective, that's common sense, right? So, but getting to that across all the information that you have, all the noise you have, that is a challenge. And that is what we solve through our AcuRisQ offering. So let's quickly see a demo of this. So this is our VAS portal. This is a portal that you would get if you have signed up for Indusface VAS. Our existing customer would be aware of this. So I'm just logging into a demo account. So this is just a demo account, but I'm just trying to give you a feel of what this AcuRisQ is and how it will help you in your risk prioritization, right? So in this demo account, I have about 10 applications, right? And I have found about 178 critical high medium vulnerabilities. Now, generally what you would do as a security practitioner would be focus on all this 178, right? And you will be told to, you'll be telling your developer to fix all these 178 vulnerabilities. But instead of that, what we have done is we have classified this using our AcuRisQ score and said, hey, there are 36 high risk vulnerabilities that you need to prioritize and fix it. So out of 178, you have to just focus on these 36 based on the analysis that we have done. That is the power of this AcuRisQ. And more importantly, all the critical and high vulnerabilities and any high risk vulnerabilities that we are showcasing goes through a false positive monitoring. So essentially, if there are any false positives, that will be automatically removed, and only true positives will be showcased to you. So all these vulnerabilities, first you have, first thing that we save you from is that the false positives has been removed. And then we are also showcasing, giving you a prioritized list of vulnerabilities that needs to be focused on. Based on the risk score, we also prioritize your assets, right? Or we say which of your assets are more prone to attack, right? And we give you a clear visibility on where your focus should be. So across all the 7 applications, based on our 10 applications, based on what we have, or sorry, it is around 7, right? Or we have seen that about 4 of them are exposed, 2 of them are healthy, and 2 of them are unhealthy, and 1 is healthy. So that's how we have prioritized it. And this will also, you can see it like which is the application that is exposed by looking at this table, and you will see all your applications and which application is vulnerable or which is exposed and which is not exposed and the likes. And the best part about this is you can drill down deeper and understand what is happening, right? And why we have marked such vulnerabilities as critical or to be prioritized as high risk. So let me give you an example around that, right? So if you go and look at an LFI vulnerabilities, right? And here it is marked as a severe high vulnerability with a severity high. But what we have noted is based on how the application, where the application is, based on the context of the application. If you look at the heat map score, it has been given the highest score of 15, which eventually means that this application has been called by multiple other applications in the organization. So any vulnerability in this should be fixed first before any other vulnerabilities. And then we look at various other factors, like, obviously severity is one factor, but then how easy it is. So when the discoverability is done, it is probably found in the home page, or it can be something very easily found, right? The complexity score has been marked as given 2, which eventually means this is a complex vulnerability. But looking at the context of other things where the application, around the context of how important is the application to the business, and how easy is the vulnerability to find, and also looking at the impact of those vulnerabilities if it is exploited, we have said that this is a vulnerability that is needs immediate attention. So that's the beauty of it, right? Even if you go and look at all the vulnerabilities across your assets, right? And this is across all your assets. You would also see some medium vulnerabilities that has been uh, marked as high risk. That is just because of the context, right? We have understood the context of the application. We think that the impact is high if this is exploited, and that's why even a median vulnerability is being told that we have highlighted as go and fix this vulnerability also. So no more you have to worry. Okay, if there are critical, high, and medium, if I fix the critical, then am I safe? If I fix the high, am I safe? If I fix the medium, am I safe? Instead of that, just look at the risk score. First, focus on your high risk. If all your high risks are fixed, you are reasonably safe. Then the next thing to focus on is the need attention part. It is always recommended that you try to fix your need attention as soon as possible, or at least you bring in some secondary controls like where for other security controls to mitigate these risks, and then move on with life, right? So that's essentially the power that we are giving to the security practitioners. So another example here, right? So link injection attack. So this is if you look at a link injection, it's like any other injection, right? You can inject any link, and then that link can be used for phishing or any redirection, anything. By the nature of this vulnerability and the CVID, its CVSS score was 6.5, and eventually it is marked as medium severity, right? But that said, because it is found in an application that is very critical, for the organization. And again, because the discoverability is high, and there is no privilege that is required to identify this vulnerability, so anyone can exploit this vulnerability. We have marked it as high risk and fix it immediately. So that's the overreaching philosophy of this feature. We wanted to give you a tool which will help you prioritize, essentially help you find the needle in the haystack, right? And that is what we are trying to do. And more the number of applications you have, the more valuable this will be. We have seen organizations which have more than 100, 200 applications and all. And in those cases, it becomes really valuable because they have thousands of vulnerabilities. And out of that, we are marking 20, 30, or 50 as high risk, right? So it really reduces the signal to noise ratio, right? And it helps the security practitioners focus on the vulnerabilities that matter. This is available to all our customers. Anyone who has signed up for our advanced or premium plans, this AcuRisQ core is available. Customers can export these reports directly from here. Even the executive reports has information around the risk scores and how the assets in their organization is classified and how the vulnerabilities in their organization is classified. So with that, I come to the end of this demo and just quickly giving you the recap of what AcuRisQ is, right? So AcuRisQ is a tool that will help you prioritize your vulnerabilities, and more especially, it is a tool that will prioritize vulnerabilities that are there. So false positives would be automatically removed, and only true positive vulnerabilities will be shown, and even on that, priorities would be provided to you. You will get a clear explanation of what the risk score is, why we have classified any risk score as such, and based on that, you can determine which vulnerabilities that you need to focus upon, and also which assets that you need to focus upon. Providing you a complete guide on what is the application security posture, where my attention should be, and should I be stopping my release and fixing this this critical vulnerability, or should I let it go, right? So those are you will get more information based on the context of where the vulnerabilities are found for you to make informed decision. That is the promise of AcuRisQ. With that, I have a final survey question for you. Did you like what you see? Would you like to explore a bit more around what AcuRisQ is and how it will help your organization? So a poll question is if you would like to do a free trial of Indusface West. The poll has started. We'll continue with the rest of the presentation, but this poll will remain open and you can answer it. So that's I mean, I want to leave you with a final slide talking entirely about what Indusface WAS is. So Indusface WAS is the first solution which has amalgamated automated scanner with manual pen testing, right? So that's our core USP when it comes to Indusface WAS. So we identify the vulnerabilities using our automated scanner, and we complement it with a manual pen testing, which will help you identify the business logic vulnerabilities. So with that, you get a single view of all the vulnerabilities that are there as part of your application. No, you don't need to manage across various reports, one from the automated scan, one from various pen testing, and then grapple around which is the vulnerability that needs to be fixed. So we give you a single view of applications of the vulnerabilities that are part of your application. So that's how we started Indusface WAS. And over a period of time, what we saw was the problem which I talked about in the first slide, right? applications were exploding in the organizations, and more security practitioners were struggling to first get hold of their inventory of what are the external facing assets they have. And it is to solve this problem that we have introduced asset discovery as part of our Indusface. So with what this asset discovery does is it helps you, it scans your organization over the internet and gives you information of all your public facing assets, be it web application APIs, along with what is application, where it is hosted, what are the IPs and the likes. And this asset discovery is something that is part of the Indusface VAS platform, and you can do it anytime you want, as on demand, or you can do a scheduled scan. So with this tree, which is asset discovery, then automated scan and pen testing, we solve the entire application security needs of an security practitioner. But we also realized that the security practitioners would also want to understand if they are exposed at their infra level. And it is to solve this, we have bundled in our vulnerability assessment scanner, which is also part of our Indusface VAS platform. And last but not least, there could be malwares that are part of your application. And though it is not a common event, but when a malware is found, it can lead to a lot of security concerns in an organization and brand risk. And it is to solve that we have also introduced malware and defacement monitoring as part of Indusface VAS platform. So Indusface VAS is a comprehensive platform which helps you do your asset discovery, understand your application risk posture, understand what is your risk posture at your infra levels, and last but not least, we continuously monitor the applications for your for malwares and defacement. So with that, we come to the end of this presentation, the webinar, and we will be happy to answer any questions you have, and we are open for questions.
Yeah, so there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. Please feel free to type in your questions. There is somebody who raised a hand. Akshay. Akshay, can you type in your question in the Q&A box? Yeah, so is the risk assessment aligned with NIST framework?
Yes, right. I mean, we have looked at where NIST frameworks and other frameworks which are part of the security industry, and then we have come up with our risk scoring mechanism. That said, it will not be. I mean, it's not like apples to apples mapping, right? So this is a proprietary approach that we have taken to solve the vulnerability fatigues. It has to be taken as a complementary to other frameworks that are available in the industry.
Okay. Any other questions? Will it directly analyze the scanner report or manual intervention is required? And how it detects or duplicates?
Yeah. No, it doesn't. There is no manual intervention required. So as vulnerabilities are found in your applications, and as all the applications are scanned for, the risk scores are automatically updated, right? So every time a new vulnerability is found and in an application, it is looked at it in the context of other vulnerabilities in the application and in other applications in your organization. And based on that, the vulnerabilities are removed. Coming to duplicates, again, vulnerabilities which are, we try again, right? The vulnerabilities generally are found at different places, but it could be the same kind of vulnerability, like session cookie, right? There, if a session cookie manipulation is possible, it could be possible across all the pages. We do not try. We have various reports which will try to group these and show you as what are the unique. But if you look at it as at an individual lens, we will try to give all the instances of the vulnerabilities which is found across the application.
So Vivek, I think there is a follow-up question on that. I think there is a threshold of how many applications should be onboarded on VAS for AcuRisQ, right? So can you explain that?
I mean, so again, right, that is because of it is a context, right? We are building context on the applications and across the applications in an organization, we build the context. So the threshold is actually 5. We need at least in a 5 applications to be there in an organization for this to start making meaningful meaningful. If there's only one application and there are 20 vulnerabilities, then it's very hard to build a context around that, right? And then say, okay, this vulnerability is more important than the other vulnerability. It will anyway come down to what the CVSS score is doing. When the number of applications goes beyond 5 and as more number of applications are there in an organization, the risk prioritization becomes hard, and that is when the AcuRisQ feature kicks in and it helps you prioritize those.
Okay, so we just have, okay, one more question. Which is the database used for exploitability?
We use multiple databases. I'm not, or at least I don't exactly remember which all databases we are using, but it is multiple sources. It's not only one source, or we just look at one database. We have various databases and source which are signature labs team uses to determine all these things, right? And starting from exploitability and other things, right? So that's an inbuilt context, and but yeah, if it is, you can reach out to our sales team and they'll be able to put you in touch with the SIG labs team to provide you the information.
I'm not sure I understand this question, but it says, what is the path you give to start a pen tester as beginner?
I mean, this is more like a recruitment question. See, as a pen tester, we have a pen testing team. You can reach out to our HR team and they'll be able to guide you on how this works.
Okay. Yeah, we have time for one more question before we close. Okay, I think we are right on time. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this interactive session. Okay, there was one. Is there any upcoming session? So we do monthly webinars. So feel free to subscribe to our newsletter on the blog page, and you will get regular updates on our webinars. Okay, so thanks so much everyone for taking time on a Wednesday afternoon to join us. And yeah, have a great rest of the week. Take care. Bye bye.